G'day, I'm ZiggyD and welcome back to part 2 in my series where I learn all about the world of Magic the Gathering, the card game that spawned an entire genre. Ethics and proper disclosure are very important to me, so this series is part of a paid promotion. All opinions are, however, my own. In the first part of this series, I talked about learning to play the actual game of Magic the Gathering. But with a game like this, there is something far more important to learn about, and that's the community. In this second part, I'll talk about what I've learned about the community, and also my biggest surprise revelation about the game. The community in any game is important to supporting its long-term enjoyment, but this is especially important when you have a game that has you play against or with other players, and even trade cards with them. As part of my journey to learn all about Magic, I made special efforts to talk to as many people from within the community as possible, attend multiple events, and of course, play games with as many people as possible. I mentioned in part 1 that the thing that initially piqued my curiosity about the game in the first place was the community. The way I could see two people interact when they discovered they both played Magic. The fervent exchange of which decks they play, how long they've been playing, opinions on upcoming expansion cards, and so on. It's like there's this secret little club that's actually pretty massive and not actually all that secret. And yet, as an outsider, it's hard to even know it exists a lot of the time. Chances are, a bunch of people you know play, and you don't even know it. A pretty good chance, in fact, because there are an estimated more than 20 million players worldwide. So my first direct encounter with the Magic community was at a Learn to Play event in Sydney. I attended this before I even decided to take part in this particular sponsorship to learn about the game and whether it was something I wanted to become invested in. At this event, there were a bunch of volunteer players who taught us all to play and answered any questions we had. These volunteers were unpaid, though I'm told scored a few booster packs as a thank you. The fact that these people came to an event like this to welcome new players to the game, and that they were so keen and excited to teach, was the first good sign of the game's community that I encountered.
Okay, so
I can reduce this one down to 0 damage.
Yes, until the end of turn. So until the end of your turn.
So if I attack with my Malachia Coldblade, who has 1 health, I can kill that. Do I get to choose which creature I attack? Yeah, I get to choose, right?
You get to attack me, and I get to choose which creatures I use to block.
Ah, so you might kill me with that one then?
Yep.
Oh.
Take it back.
God damn it.
So you might want to untap your land before you forget that you've used it.
Alright, well I'm learning, okay, I get to cheat a little bit. My next encounter was actually through my live stream. I did a stream of learning to play Magic Duels, and tons of my viewers, and some new ones, tuned in to help me out with the learning process, providing me with lots of advice. In fact, if you check out the link in the description below, you can actually go to the highlight of that stream and even see chat helping me out thanks to Twitch's new chat replay feature. Of course, being Twitch chat, they also had a good time teasing me for missing lethal or not reading the entire card text, as I am often inclined to do. Let's do this. Armored Ascension. Enchanted creature. Your enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each planes you control. You control 6 planes. Oh shit, bro. Alright, so we just have to get him through. So, this guy's flying, so he could block him. Can't he block these guys too, though? The merfolk? Oh, enchanted creature can't attack or block. So we'd want to... But there's 2 that can block us still, though. It doesn't have trample. How can we win on this turn? And has flying. Oh, we have to block the flyer. Okay. Read the whole card, Ziggy. Read the whole card. So we can play pacifism here and stop this flying guy. There we go. And then we can play this guy. And now he gets flying, so they can't block him. I understand now. I was really surprised and impressed with how many of my regulars stopped by and had a good time with me learning to play. Even patiently helping me build a deck from scratch, which took quite a long time, and with lots of arguments about me wanting horrible cards in my deck that I liked the look of. I really had a lot of fun with this stream, so much so that I'll probably do an occasional Magic stream even after this sponsorship concludes. My next encounter with the Magic community, and probably the most raw and telling, was my attending the Magic Grand Prix in Melbourne. The Grand Prix is a massive tournament where professional and semi-professional players all come together to compete for cash prizes. Going to this event, I was a bit concerned I was getting myself in over my head, but I knew it would be a great chance to see the more serious side of the community and a good opportunity to meet tons of people. This is also a pretty good opportunity to mention the competitive community surrounding the game. at least what I've seen of it so far. It seems that there is a pretty vibrant and active competitive and even professional scene around the game. The Grand Prix d'Australia was pretty damn large, hundreds and hundreds of people, so I can only imagine events in the USA and other countries would be even larger. The prizes are pretty solid too, with the Australian GP having a first place prize of $10,000, with the opportunity to go onto the Pro Tour, which has a first place prize of up to $40,000. There also appears to be a pretty active local level competitive scene as well, with weekly tournaments all over the world called Friday Night Magic, which I've been told are a great way to get into more serious play. I've yet to attend one of these events, but there are a few stores near me and it's on my to-do list. If you guys are interested in how that goes, let me know and I'll tweet about it or make a video perhaps. So let's go back to the Melbourne Grand Prix that I attended and talk a bit about the atmosphere and feel of the event. There was this real buzz of excitement, and the constant chatter of people playing games at long tables stretching this entire hall was something to behold. And yet, it was actually quite a relaxed environment. I've been to a ton of different gaming events, and this was the most, chill event that I've been to now. People seem to be having a pretty good time. Some would have their game faces on for sure, but once the games were done, they'd be smiling and shaking hands with their opponents. People can get pretty competitive, so I actually asked someone there if they'd ever seen someone rage and blow up and flip a table or something. And he said that in the years that he'd been to GPs, he'd never seen anything like that. The Magic community definitely seems to be winning out over online gaming communities as far as civility goes. I didn't hear a single thing about anyone's mothers. And if I had to take a stab at the reason why this might be the case, I think it's because Magic is quite personal. You're actually there with the person after all. You actually meet them and shake hands with other players, you get to see them as a real person, and there's a lot more respect because of it. It seems weird to be saying this, because it seems kind of like an obvious thing, but I spend most of my time these days playing online games, and I guess I don't get exposed to, a social life and this much friendly competition, so it was actually quite a surprise to me. While I was at the GP, I didn't compete. Of course, I'm an absolute noob. I didn't want to get my face stomped in a tournament. That wouldn't be the most gracious entrance into the Magic community, perhaps. But I did get to sit down and do some fun drafts with a lot of different players. Something really important I noticed was that none of them went easy on me, even after I said I was a new player. They happily answered any mechanics questions I had, but they mercilessly destroyed me. And they let me make mistakes, even pretty obvious and stupid ones. This wasn't really in a hostile way, I don't think. It felt more like an actual sign of respect. Like they respected my ability to learn from my mistakes and my ability to win legitimately. Which I even managed to do a couple of times as well. This is one of the more nuanced details of my experiences with the Magic community that I've really come to appreciate. There's nothing worse than people making you feel like an idiot when you're new to something. I didn't get any of that. Now, before I talk about my biggest surprise in learning about the Magic community, first let me share what I've learned about how you can get involved in the community yourself. Of course, like I talked about in the previous video, if you have friends that play, that's your first point of call. I'd also recommend just casually dropping the fact that you're playing and learning some Magic onto social media or into some random conversations, because you'll be pretty surprised that some of the people you already know are already Magic players. Next, I recommend looking out for some local drafts. Drafting is a ton of fun and a great way to build up your card collection while getting a pretty good evening of entertainment. And it's a fantastic way to meet Magic players and potentially form new friendships. The way drafts work is that around 6 to 8 people all sit at one big table and open booster packs, passing them around as they build decks together. Then you typically play a series of games against each other person. This means that you end up spending quite a few hours talking to this group of people, as a group and one-on-one. Psychologically, this is such a good way to meet people and make friends. It's low pressure, but provides plenty of chance to get to know each person a bit. It's not like when you go out to a nightclub or something like that, there's loud music blaring and everything, and you can't really carry a conversation. You get plenty of opportunities to actually talk to each person. This might sound a little funny, okay, so just bear with me here. But it's actually very similar to the tactics used for some dating events and by matchmakers. And for good reason, I mean, it's the most balanced and least awkward way to get to know new people. Speaking of, that gives me a good idea for a Magic dating business. So, how can you find drafts? Find your local games and hobby store and give them a call, and simply ask them. Otherwise, you can hit up the store and event locators on the official MTG site or on sites like MTG Finder, both of which I'll link it in the description below for you guys to check out. Both ways are pretty likely to find you a local place that does a Magic night. They're really all over the place. I also want to mention that you'll find tons of support and community interaction available online as well. I've personally been spending quite a bit of time myself exploring the various Magic-related communities on Reddit, the core one being r/Magic TCG, which is a bit of a mix of everything, news, some humour and discussion topics. From there are a ton of smaller communities branching off, including strategy talk, deck building help, a subreddit called Pauper, which is dedicated to super budget Magic play, and even a subreddit for Magic gore, pictures of horribly and tragically ruined cards and collection. Just heart-wrenching stuff. I'll link the entire collection of subreddits in the description below in one easy link for you guys to explore at your leisure. At first, you'll probably find some of the memes and in-jokes in the community a bit confusing, but there is a whole lot of cool stuff to discover down that particular rabbit hole. Now, there's probably a ton more to the Magic community than what I've seen so far. Although I feel like in my 2 months, I've grown a pretty solid understanding of the game itself, at least the basic mechanics. I'm no pro. I feel like I'm only just scratching the surface of what the game's community has to offer. I noticed in the comments of the part 1 video that I made that a lot of Magic vets actually popped in to share their experiences, which is awesome. So, for myself and other new players potentially joining your community, I'd like to ask you guys to share some of your knowledge with us newbies about the community. Are there any YouTube channels you really like, websites or forums you visit? Or maybe you can just share some of your experiences in getting involved in the Magic community yourself. I know I'll really appreciate it, and I'm sure a ton of the other viewers will as well. So, finally, what was my biggest surprise in learning about the Magic community? Here it is. I've been to over a dozen different gaming events now, both in Australia and overseas. Every time I run into a couple people, like people watch my YouTube channel, maybe 2 or 3 people that recognize me or watch my videos or stream. Well, the event that I met the most people that watch my stream or recognize me in some way, by far, was the Melbourne Magic Grand Prix. I directly met about 10 people that knew me, and had at least a few others wave in knowing fashion as they walk past, and this is in Australia no less. While the biggest audiences I actually have on YouTube and Twitch are American or European. A very small percentage of my viewer base is Aussie. This really surprised and confused me for a while, but I noticed there are actually a ton of people at the event wearing Path of Exile t-shirts. And then it all made sense, it all clicked for me. Tons of Path of Exile players also play Magic the Gathering. I got a confirmation of this via my live stream as well. And I get it, it's a natural fit, man. Having complex mechanics to understand and come together to make cool things happen is what both Path of Exile and Magic are all about. Building a deck is a lot like making a build in Path of Exile. I can feel the same sections of my brain working as I do it. I mean, even the game design of Path of Exile Uniques is based on Magic card design philosophy, as some of the Grinding Gear Games developers are big Magic players as well. So, that was my biggest surprise on this journey. I had no idea that there would be so much overlap between the Path of Exile community and the Magic the Gathering community. And I'm pretty happy to now be part of 2 awesome communities that have more in common than I expected. That's it for the second part. In the third part, I'll talk about how the game expands and grows over time, with a look at its most recent expansion, Shadows over Innistrad. That's it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.